fire and steel. No one knew their purpose. No one knew their orders. Only one truth became clear: humanity was not gone. Perhaps not alive in the way the galaxy expected, but not gone. The galaxy's councils trembled. If this was one fleet, forgotten in a dead system, how many more slept in the dark? How many hidden armories, buried stations, entombed ships lay scattered across the stars, waiting for the moment their time returned? The galaxy had laughed at Terran silence. They had mocked the graveyards. They had declared humanity extinct. Now dread spread from world to world. Admirals whispered in secret meetings. Civilians prayed to nameless gods. And every captain who ventured into the void found themselves watching the stars with fear, wondering if the shadows they saw were only shadows, or the eyes of ancient Terran warships awakening. Because if humans could preserve fleets like this, they could preserve anything. Weapons beyond imagination, engines of war not yet seen, and perhaps themselves. The silence had ended. The stars had witnessed terror. And the galaxy finally remembered: humanity never truly vanishes. Humanity waits. The galaxy remembered humanity only as dust on the pages of history. To the archives of the Vale Dominion, to the records of the Carthan conglomerate, to the oral myths of the Shalvora priesthoods, Earth was nothing but a cautionary tale. Once millennia ago, the humans had burned hot across the stars. Their colonies were scattered, their fleets numbered in the thousands, and their weapons carried reputations whispered even among enemies. But then they vanished. No clear war, no great extinction recorded, just silence. The archivists called it the Great Human Quiet. Entire centuries passed without transmissions, trade, or presence. Hyperlanes that once hummed with Terran vessels became cold. Planets that bore their colonies fell dark. The galaxy moved on, confident that humanity had extinguished itself. For the Vale especially, this was a point of pride. They had survived where humans had not. Their fleets patrolled the coreward sectors, sleek and modern, unmatched in firepower by any surviving race. The collapse of humanity was proof. Fierce species burned out. Pragmatic ones endured. And so the silence of Earth became less a mystery and more a certainty. Humanity was finished, extinct, weak, nothing more than a smudge on the galactic timeline. Or so they believed. Whispers in the dark. The first sign came from the edge of the Perseus Vale. Vale scouts patrolling a quiet hyperlane noticed faint signals bleeding from a forgotten sector. Faint bursts, low frequency, distorted like echoes from a broken transmitter. At first, the crews ignored it. The Perseus Vale was known as a graveyard of dead stations and ruined colonies. Nothing alive had stirred there for millennia. But the signals persisted, rhythmic, repeating, not random noise. The Vale High Command ordered an investigation. A task force of 3 cruisers entered the sector, mapping ancient debris fields, scanning the drifting hulks of ships so old their hulls resembled rusting monuments. It was all as expected, until they reached the heart of the graveyard. There, floating in the cold light of an ancient sun, they found the station. At first glance it was dead, enormous, ring-shaped, its frame cracked and dust-covered, drifting with no power signatures. But their instruments disagreed. Deep within the carcass something pulsed. Not life signs, not radiation, something older. A repeating beacon buried under layers of encrypted code. The Vale dismissed it as a corrupted black box, the dying cough of a forgotten human relay. They broadcast the discovery across their channels as proof. Humanity's ruins still lingered, but nothing more. And yet unease lingered. The signal grew stronger with each passing cycle. Other anomalies surfaced, ghost readings of heat signatures, faint movements among hulks that should have been immobile. When veiled drones approached to scan the station, several simply vanished from telemetry. The reports made their way up the Dominion's chain of command. Officials laughed it off. "Old wrecks don't bite," one counselor declared. But the crews at the graveyard knew better. Something was waking. The graveyard breathes. It began with a vibration. A Vale cruiser stationed closest to the station's surface detected seismic tremors running through the structure. Not natural, not random. They followed patterns, mechanical, deliberate. Engines. The ship's captain ordered immediate withdrawal, but it was too late. Across the dark station's surface, thousands of lights ignited in sequence, as though an invisible hand had drawn fire across the metal skeleton. Faded insignias gleamed under the glow, red-white emblems of a forgotten empire, Terran Navy. The graveyard was not dead, it was sleeping. The derelicts stirred. Hulls that had drifted lifeless for eons shifted course. Dust cascaded as massive engines thrummed to life, vibrations shaking entire fields of wreckage. Once silent shipyards lit up, their scaffolds cracking open like eggs to reveal warships entombed within. And they moved with purpose. Not randomly, not like malfunctioning drones. They formed ranks. Their thrusters fired in synchronization. Their transponders, still valid despite the passage of millennia, broadcast codes no alien could decipher. The Vale cruisers opened fire in panic, lancing the darkness with beams of plasma. The blast slammed against the nearest Terran vessel, an angular warship so massive its shadow eclipsed the stars. For a heartbeat, the aliens thought victory was theirs, until the Terran hull shimmered, deflecting the attack with shields older, yet stronger, than anything the Vale had ever seen. Then came the reply. One salvo. A lance of light, precise and surgical. The first Vale cruiser disintegrated before it could even scream. The graveyard was no longer a grave, it was a fleet. The rise of the forgotten armada. Word spread like wildfire. Veiled distress signals reached neighboring sectors, only to fall silent mid-transmission. Civilian ships fled, reporting impossible sights. Fleets of Terran warships advancing in perfect formation, their engines roaring after ages of silence. And everywhere they passed, the stars themselves seemed to shudder. The Vale Dominion scrambled its modern fleets, sleek, efficient, tested in countless wars. They converged on the Vale to stamp out this ghost armada. Admirals boasted that no relics, however dangerous, could stand against contemporary might. But when they faced the Terran armada, their arrogance died. The humans had not returned as ruins. They had returned as storms. The first clash was brutal. Vale warships, dozens strong, engaged the Terran vanguard near a shattered moon. The Dominion expected a swift rout. Instead, their formations collapsed within minutes. Terran ships maneuvered with flawless precision, their gunnery instantaneous as though guided by minds that never slept. Ancient dreadnoughts unleashed volleys that shredded shields designed centuries after their creation. Vale tactics, tested and proven, failed against strategies that felt alien, yet frighteningly human. And the worst part, the Terran ships did not hesitate. They moved like predators released from chains. They knew exactly where to strike, exactly how to break formations, exactly when to vanish into the dark and reappear at an enemy's flank. Entire Vale fleets dissolved into burning wreckage. Survivors whispered that the human ships fought like they remembered every war ever fought, as if their crews had never left their posts. Were there humans aboard? Was this the last vengeance of a long-dead race? Or were the ships themselves, armored titans of steel and AI, still alive, None could answer. None dared linger to find out. What mattered was clear. The lost fleet was awake. Terror among the stars. Panic spread beyond the Dominion. Across the spiral arms, governments convened emergency councils. Old legends resurfaced in hushed tones. The Shalvora priests unearthed scriptures claiming humanity had promised to return when the stars forgot their fear. The Carthan merchants emptied trade lanes near human sectors, unwilling to gamble their cargo against the awakening storm. But fear was universal. If these were only fragments of humanity's arsenal, what else lay hidden? The Terran fleet did not broadcast demands. It did not parley. It simply moved, system by system, activating old beacons, lighting long-dead stations, awakening more and more ships from their eternal slumber. Each time, the galaxy watched in dread as another star system filled with shadows of ancient steel. Modern technology faltered before them. Codes transmitted across galactic networks were answered with overrides that should have been obsolete. Terran warships slipped through blockades as though their enemies were children. They carried authority older than any council, and the stars themselves seemed to obey. The galaxy realized a truth more terrifying than extinction. Humanity had never been gone. They had been waiting, preserving their storm fleets in silence, preparing for a day they deemed necessary. And that day had come. Aftermath, the whispered dread. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy was no longer the same. Every admiral, every counselor, every priest, every merchant whispered the same question. Why? Why had humanity awoken now? The Veil Dominion, once proud masters of the coreward sectors, now lived in terror. Their fleets were shattered, their pride broken. Survivors reported dreams, visions of human eyes watching them from the darkness. Was it fear, or something deeper? The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. No one dared provoke the Terran armada again. No one dared approach their growing sphere of reawakening power.